You're listening to IndiaBiospeaks, your one-stop resource for science, news, and careers. Welcome everyone to our next informational interview on crafting your career in science, where we talk to interesting science professionals about various career trajectories, learning their professional and personal insights on how they navigated their career path. And today we have with us Deepti Trivedi. She's a technology scientist and she's in charge of the core fly facility at the National Center for Biological Sciences in Bangalore, which is a part of the bigger Bangalore Life Science Cluster, BLISC. And this includes the NCBS, National Center for Biological Sciences, CCAMP, and InSTEM. Today, we will chat with her about her long relationship with fruit flies, Drosophila as they are called. And this is a favorite research model system for many biologists. This relationship with flies began, I believe, from her master's days at NCBS, Bangalore. So it's a full circle. And through her PhD at the University of Cambridge and her postdoc at UCLA. So Deepti, do tell us more about your career journey and the events that led you to your current role here back at NCBS.
Hi Lakshmi, thank you so much for inviting me. You make it sound very straightforward, but my career path was not that well planned. In fact, I took science only because I found art and commerce subjects quite boring, and hence those weren't even an option. I did develop a tremendous interest in science. I had absolutely wonderful science teachers in school as well as college. I applied for integrated PhD program at NCBS, joined master's program at Professor Obaid Siddiqui's lab. It was an interesting time because I was left on my own for the first time on what I wanted to do, but at the same time given support to be able to achieve it. So I set up an electrophysiology rig to record from specific neurons while in Siddiqui's lab. This was exciting. In retrospect, I realized that I had an inclination and interest in setting up something new. After this, I moved to University of Cambridge to do a PhD with Dr. Raghu Padinjat to study molecular biology in phototransduction. Here again, I used Drosophila as model system. Towards the end, having spent about 7 years working with flies between my master's and PhD program, I wanted to do something different. So then I chose a postdoc that will expose me to different model system and provide necessary experience to transition into industry career, because that's what I thought I wanted to do at that time. So hence I joined Professor David Williams' lab in UCLA. Here again, I developed a transgenic mouse model, in fact, to study the transport of rhodopsin in photoreceptors, and then develop a live imaging setup to study these mechanisms in vivo in rod photoreceptors. So throughout this time, I discovered that I liked creating something from scratch and do something new constantly, like collaborating with people or helping people. And these are some of the attributes that came together in my present role as a core facility manager of the fly facility in Bangalore Life Science Cluster.
Deepti, can you explain to us what the roles and responsibilities of a core facility manager is?
Well, technically speaking, the work of a facility manager, in fact, is similar to work in any laboratory. The difference is that it is run mainly using technical staff who generally work around well worked out and defined protocols. New protocols need to be standardized in a way so that it can be reproduced again and again, and then everyone needs to get trained in them. So that's the technical aspect of it. The other aspect is that the staff in a core facility has to agree to be behind the scene, as in most cases, there is no formal acknowledgement to individuals, but rather to a facility or its manager, in fact, say in publications. As a manager of core facility, one cannot expect intellectual inputs or independent problem-solving capabilities from the staff. Therefore, she will have to keep micromanagerial tabs on their work, actively work alongside the staff, hand holding in developing protocols, routines, and in troubleshooting. Of course, there are always exceptions to this. A manager also has to get used to the fact that it could be a moving set of people working under him or her, and that these positions tend to be fluid. So, training and retraining are part and parcel of the nature of the work. In addition to this, there are financial aspects where facility manager has to manage and report the financial state, make decisions on user fees, and so on. Besides serving the scientific community, the facility, especially our facility, Fly facility at NCBS, also engages with larger public through its various outreach activities. In collaboration with the communication team here at NCBS, we engage with schools and colleges and make them aware that fruit flies can make extremely useful model system to study different aspects of biology. In this context, we design different experiments and kits that can be used by any school or colleges to understand how research is done and how basic biology can be understood in a fun and simple way. I also use sci-art in my presentation as a means to educate the community.
Deepti, that really sounds like a great balance of right and left brain activities all factored into one day job. I would like to know how you keep yourself and your users updated, and how do you adopt or implement the latest and the state-of-the-art technologies in the field?
Well, that mostly comes from reading and subscribing to scientific articles. In addition, I'm a part of many informal groups and social platforms that discuss nuances of the field of genome engineering and other new techniques that are used across or in other model organisms also. It helps to be continuously interacting with very responsive user community, collaborate on grants, appraise the community on their nuances. However, what will be the next big project of the facility always has to come from the user. I, of course, keep recommending new technologies in the field to the users through emails and discussions.
So, Deepti, how would you describe a typical work day for you?
A typical workday involves meeting with the staff members individually, discussing their work, what they need to do, analyze their work, and suggest them ways to troubleshoot any problems that they are facing. It usually also includes designing experiments, developing protocols, ordering reagents, reading and keeping myself updated. I write or respond to emails from users to understand their requirements, connect them to CCamp to discuss on how much each experiment involve. There are also meetings with various users of the facility on campus. I also collaborate with PIs in writing relevant sections of their grant proposals or method sections on their papers. Of course, a lot of time goes in reading and keeping myself updated.
Deepti, I know that you have also seamlessly integrated some atypical activities as part of your work. Some of these were your hobbies, like you mentioned before, the sci-art. Can you tell us, or maybe even show or describe to us some of your work?
Most of these art-related activities are still restricted to the category of hobby. However, I have recently started using them to express some scientific concepts. I'm interested in creative way of data visualization. Let me just explain one of the things that I have recently done, which is based on the concept of homunculus, which is a well-known concept where different sensory and motor neurons that are expressed or that are present on our body parts are represented in our brain in a certain way. So, for example, our hands, our lips, our tongue, etc., has much more density of sensory and motor neurons as compared to other parts of our body. And so, in a homunculus, these organs are represented as much more bigger structures. And I have used the same concept to Drosophila, and what I have made here as a sci-art is what I call as sensory drosonculus. So the idea is that I've used the information about the number of sensory neuron innervating different body parts of Drosophila. Each organ is drawn to scale by the number of sensory neurons it has. For example, Drosophila has much larger number of sensory neurons in eyes. So as you see here, eyes are much bigger organ. They are represented as a much bigger organ, followed by antennae, which have 1/6 of the sensory neurons as compared to eyes. And proboscis is the next. Wings, for example, have much lesser sensory neurons and only at the upper margin of it. Looking at this fly, one could immediately appreciate that the number of sensory neurons differ in different parts of the body, and that's how they are represented. In addition, I'm getting interested in writing popular science articles, for which I also like to do illustrations if I get time. One of them should be coming soon in magazine I Wonder.
Deepti, this is really neat. Listeners, if you haven't noticed, the podcast artwork that we have for this informational interview is a depiction of the sensory drosunculus that Deepti just described. Please do check it out if you haven't already. It's really neat. It's really cool. Deepti, I would like to know what's most appealing to you about what you do.
What I like most about this work is the flexibility that this job offers without the academic pressures of mentoring, writing grants, or publishing. The lack of pressures also provides me with creative freedom. I have also discovered that I prefer having order and closure rather than open-endedness, which comes usually with the academic career. A position of service such as core facility management allows me to define tasks and take them to their logical conclusion and to get gratification from it.
I would like to know, how users depend on core facilities, which is again a center which provides service to a clientele. What are your dependencies? Who all do you transact with?
Lakshmi, the Fly facility runs on a not-for-profit model. So just like the users depend on the Fly facility, we depend on the users. Each service provided by the facility has a user fees associated with it. This user fees directly depends on the number of labs that subscribe to the facility. Hence, to keep the facility running, we constantly and actively seek new users. Besides the intramural users, we also seek national and international collaborations and users. We do these via our interactions with CCAMP, which helps us with our scientific interaction with other institutes. We also actively write grants along with the scientists to develop new methods and to build and update our own capacity. In our work, we as a facility also depend on other core facilities. For example, we are one of the heavier users of the sequencing facility at the cluster.
Now, Deepti, for a student that looks at core facility management as a possible career path, what kind of accomplishments or skills tend to be valued or rewarded? And how does one prepare to enter into this field?
Okay, besides the core technical expertise and sound foundational knowledge and training, which is absolute must, one need to have an attitude of service to be successful facility manager. One needs to have the ability to address complaints from the user, and openness to new ideas is also an asset. People skills are paramount. One needs to be constantly interacting with users, the committee, facility in charges, and so on. One also needs to resist the temptation to do their own research or operate as a soloist. It's a community-driven operation and as a collaborative space which is heavily user-driven, as I have mentioned earlier. Management skills in general can be an added plus. For example, managing finances, human resources, etc. Although I didn't take any formal training in management, most of my learning was through trial and error and on the job.
Thank you, Deepti. Finally, are there any words of career wisdom that you would like to leave our listeners with today from your journey so far?
Lakshmi, we live in a world where we are constantly talking about passion and interest when we discuss about our career choices. I personally do not subscribe to the concept of a dream job or job for life. For every career, honeymoon does get over in whatever we do. In this context, I rarely plan too much into the future. However, one thing that I keep reminding myself is to keep learning new things and keep doing things that interest me outside of the work or within my work, irrespective of whether it would be of any use in the capitalist sort of way. Maybe every year invest in learning a new skill that can potentially enrich me and maybe integrate into my work, or at least the way I think about my work. So to sum it, I would say keep reinventing yourself, commit to a lifelong learning, and add more dimensions to your work.
Thank you, Deepti, for summarizing this so well. Those were very practically spoken words of career wisdom. And it really resonates in me how you have balanced these two arms. On one hand, you're serving the scientific community using your core expertise attained through your graduate training, which allows you or even requires you to remain on top of the field itself. On the other hand, you've added some creative dimensions to your work and found ways to channel them into serving the community at large. This is really well done, and I'm sure will serve as an inspirational model for many young graduates out there as they craft their own careers. Listeners, please find a link to the Fly facility and its various services in the description section of the podcast. If you like this episode, do leave us a comment below. To listen to more inspiring career stories, subscribe to our season on crafting your career in science only on IndiaBiospeaks. If you're passionate about scientific research, communication, outreach, and science education as we are, please connect and engage with us, and here are some ways that you can do so.
Visit our website at www.indiabioscience.org.
Subscribe to our newsletters.
Write for us and join our online discussion forum at discuss.indiabioscience.org.
Advertise jobs, grants and events in the life sciences on our website.
And feel free to contact us anytime at hello@indiabioscience.org.
Until next time, enjoy your science and stay engaged to enable change.